Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. Happy Monday. I just wanted to give you a quick little update. Please check your emails and read the email all the way through about your new schedule, what to expect Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from here on out. We're going to stick to this schedule to make it as easy as possible for you guys. So every Monday, you can expect a video lesson, and I'm going to try to keep it as close to 10 minutes as possible so I can hold your attention. And we are going to be picking up somewhat where we left off in Unit 9, which was Exponentials. So we left off on day 3, I believe. I'm going to start over and show you guys a quick review of day 1 and 2 today, which was graphing, cube root, square root, and exponentials. We're going to do 3 graphs in this lesson, and then I'm going to ask you guys to graph 3 on your own, okay, at the very end. So a lot of these questions I'm pulling from the notes. If you still have that note packet, hang on to that and have that close by because it has even more notes in there. And I'll post the answer key to that note packet as well. But we're going to cut it down quite a bit just to try to keep this under 10 minutes or as close to 10 minutes as possible. Okay? So make sure you have your calculator today, and a blank sheet of paper is all you need. Keep this as neat as you can. I'm going to model how I want you guys to write it. Try to copy what I do. It makes it much easier for us when we grade this. Okay, so just your calculator and your pencil or your pen. And I'm going to start with graphing a square root. So question 1, and let's put the date on there I probably should have figured out what the date was. 19. What the heck is the date tomorrow? Somebody knows the answer to this and they're like, what the heck? Today's the 18th. Today's the 19th. So 4/20 is tomorrow. This is Monday's assignment. So today, I should say, because you're probably all watching it on Monday, not Sunday night when I'm making it, of course. Okay, so 4/20 Monday, we're going to do 3 questions. Question 1 is going to be the square root function. So we're going to graph the following. And take as good of notes as I take. It'll be a nice reference for you. Hang on to these. We're teaching you guys the important stuff that you need for geometry and algebra 2. So hang on to these just in case you need to reference them down the road. All right, so we're going to graph y equals, we're just going to do the regular square root of x. Okay, I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, and we're going to talk about domains and ranges. So I'm going to save this spot right here for my graph. Make it as neat as you can. If you have a ruler, you get bonus points. And make your table. We always have to show a table when we graph anything, okay? In your y equals, you're just plugging in your equation into the calculator. Y equals, clear everything out and type in the square root. So you have to second x squared. Okay, that's where your square root button is. And then just x, square root of x. And then we're gonna hit second table. And if you remember from class, it was a month ago already, I can't believe it. You have to go all the way up until you see the first word that says error. First time you see error, the rest of these are going to be error from here on out. We have to graph that first point. That's the very, very important point, okay? So I have to start with that first point after error, which is going to be 0, 0. And then the next point was 1, 1. And then you can skip over some of these decimals. You don't need those. As long as you have enough points to graph, like we're going to graph 4, 2. That's a good one. Let's see, the next nice point is 9, 3. That's another good one, and that usually takes us to the end of our graph. So those 4 points are fine. You can graph decimals, of course. We're not going to penalize you for that, but some people are unsure of how many you need to graph. You just, as long as you have a decent amount so that you see the shape of it. Okay. So 0, 0 would be right here. I'm going to just kind of count. I know I have to go up to 9, so I'm going to count out 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And my y's are going up to 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and just graph this as neat as possible. I know this is not ideal. 0, 0 would be right here. 1, 1 would be over 1, up 1. 4, 2 would be over 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1, 2. And 9, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up 1, 2, 3, so a little higher than that last one. And then when you go ahead and connect the dots, you always go with an arrow in that one direction because those numbers keep going, and we don't put an arrow that way, so only an arrow going this way, okay? And that's y equals the the square root of x. Okay, let's talk about the domain and the range really quick. Okay, so your domain, I'm gonna write them in 2 ways. I'm going to write them using interval notation and inequalities because your IXL actually asks or shows you inequalities, so I want you guys to have both ways. Your domain is left to right, remember, so I'll do my green marks here. How far left does this function go? Well, that starts at the point 0, right? Think of that as a number line. It starts at 0, and how far right? Here's your arrow, bring it down. It goes to another arrow, right? That's showing that it's going all the way to positive infinity. So if you're writing it in interval notation, you're going to do 0, and it includes 0 because it's a point, to infinity, parenthesis. Let's do the range. How low does it go? I'll do that in red. So here's my lowest point. Think of this as like an up-down number line. That's at 0. And how high does it go? Here's an arrow again. So it's really going up to positive infinity. Even though it looks like it's just going right, it's also going up. So it's going to be the same thing, 0 to infinity. Okay? If you were looking at an inequality, this one would be x is everything greater than 0. So x is greater than or equal to 0 because it's a point there. And the same with your y values. Y is everything greater than or equal to 0. Sometimes, especially on IXL, you'll see something like this where it says x and then a line here and then does like a little squiggly here. That's another way you'll see it. Don't get confused with all those symbols. Okay? It just means the same thing. Look, pay attention to the inequality, okay? All right, so that's your square root. Feel free to pause me and rewatch me if I'm going too fast. I just want to make sure I'm keeping your attention over here. Okay, cubed root is next. So cubed root. And we're going to graph the following. Y equals, you do the square root symbol, but you put a little tiny 3 right up there. Square root of x. And we're just going to graph the original, okay? So I'm going to have room for my x and y values. And here's my table. Or, I'm sorry, that was my table. Here is my axis, my y and my x. Okay, so in your calculator, this one you might not remember how to get to, so pay close attention to me here. You go into your y equals, clear everything out. You hit math, so that's right under alpha. And you go down to number 4. You can see that little 3 in front of the square root symbol. And there it is. And then you just do the cubed root of x. And let's go to the table, second graph. Okay, this one, very specific points as well. So this one I'm going to scroll up. This one is in a shape of an S. Let's just hit the graph button just so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so this one looks like an S, and we have to make sure we create that S shape when we go ahead and graph it. If you only take certain points, you might only have like this half, and that's not okay because then that looks like a square root function. So we want to make sure we graph the full S, which means I need to graph a couple points in the negatives and then a couple points in the positives. I say this with cubed root, there's always going to be 3. So think of 3, and I think of 3 with like a 3 right here. There's always going to be 3 points that are touching each other. 1, 2, 3 nice points right in a row. Those are your middle points. So I'm going to go ahead and record those. And I'm going to record them in the middle. So I'm going to have some room for my other points. So -1, -1, 0, 0, 1, 1. Okay, that was really not really in the middle, but... Okay, then I'm going to go up and collect a couple negatives, and I want to make sure, like this graph, usually it goes to -10, so I want to make sure I get something farther out. So look at this, -8, 2, -2, perfect point. So that will be my negative point that I graphed, -8, -2. And then you might have guessed it, but if I go to my positives, my positive point's going to be 8, 2. Okay, so 8, 2. Okay, so those points will create my S. I have my 3 points in the middle that actually end up looking like a straight line. But then when you have these 2 points, they give you the tail. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we'll go up to, we don't have to go that high, but 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 in each direction there, okay? -8 is 2 from the back here. So -8, count over 8, down 2 would be this point right here. -1 is here. 0, 0, 1, 1. So these points look like a line. So if you don't have that extra point, you're going to make it look like a line. So you want to make sure it looks like an S like that. And that was the point 8, 2, my last point there. Okay? And when you connect the dots, be careful. Make sure you make it like a curved S. Okay? Label, cube root of x. And let's talk about domain and range. These ones are nice. Okay, domain and range. I have an arrow. Remember, domain is left to right. Left to right. All the way left is an arrow, which means it's going to negative infinity. All the way right is an arrow, which means it's going to positive infinity. So you can write this a couple ways. Interval notation would be negative infinity to positive infinity. You could say all reals. We write it like that with a symbol, or you might see it written out all reals. Okay? Your range, I'll circle in red here. How low, we go low to high, so low arrow. Even though it looks like it's going left, it's also going down to negative infinity. How high does it go? This is an arrow pointing up to positive infinity. So my range is going to be the same thing. Parentheses, always around infinities. Negative infinity to positive infinity, like that. Or you can write it like this, all reals. Or you can write out the words, all reals. Okay? That's your cubed root function, okay? So that's the cubed root. That's number 3. I'm showing you all 3 as a review. Next one is your exponential. So hopefully you can fit that on your last part here. Exponential. Okay, so you have to graph. I'm going to make this one with a transformation. I'm going to move it left, right, up, down. So y equals, with an exponential, you have a base number. I'm going to do a base of 2. Your x is in the exponent. And I'm going to shift it, I'll shift it left. Well, I'm actually going, yeah, I'll do left plus 1. Okay, remember inside, left or right, outside, if there's a number out here, it'd be up or down. So this one's going to shift left 1. Okay, so here's my XY table. Here's my graph, Y, X. And let's go ahead and put this in my calculator. Now this, pay close attention to how you're going to do this. So Y equals, you have to put the 2 in first, of course, 2. Then you have to hit the caret button. If you don't hit the caret button, you're graphing a line. So caret so that it's like a little exponent now. X, and then I'm doing plus 1. Keep that up there. Don't tab out for the plus 1 because it's still small with that right there, okay? Let's graph it to see what it looks like. It always helps. So these are the ones that shoot way up, and this is going to be what our whole rest of the unit is on. And then I'm going to go into my table and graph some points here. Now, if you remember from the lesson, this was the last day before we left, you guys. You want to graph a couple decimals. So I'm going to go up until I see a few decimals. I see 0.25 and 0.5. So I'm going to start with these points, and then look at these points shoot up so quickly that you won't even be able to graph a lot of those. Like look at 7,256. We can't graph that. So I'm going to collect those points of -3, -0.2, I'm sorry, that's positive. Oopsies, positive 0.25, -2, 0.5, -1, 1, 0, 2, 1, 4, 2, 8. You could do 316, write it down. We probably won't get to that point, and I just want to show you guys quickly from a review. Exponentials, remember, they multiply by the same amount, your y values, so it's easier to see with the whole numbers. These are all going up by times 2, and that's what this comes from. Whatever your base is, 2 here, that's what you're multiplying by, times 2 times 2. This is a growth because these numbers are getting bigger. Even 2.5 times 2 gives you 0.5, and that times 2. It's just easier to see when you know the numbers, okay? So let's go ahead and graph this. There's something also that's super important with this graph. You might remember it from class, is that when you go ahead and graph this point, -3.25, 1, 2, 3, up 0.25, so let me count out to 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll go up to 10 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, I should have done this first. Okay, I got ahead of myself. All right, the point -3.25. 1, 2, 3, up 0.25. You're not going all the way up to 1. You're close to that line, but you're not touching it. Okay, it's like 25 cents. It's not a full dollar, so I can't go up to that 1. -2.5 would be just a little bit above that. You can hardly tell the difference. -1, 1 is right there again. Hardly tell the difference. Over 0 up 2. Over 1 up 4. Now you can start seeing the growth here. Over 2 up 8. So that was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're doing our best to eyeball these. And then 316 is going to be off the chart, so I'm not going to graph that. So from class, if you remember, it never touches whatever the bottom line is, okay? So if it's been shifted down or up, your bottom line shifts. This one wasn't shifted up or down, right? There would be something going on right here. It would say like +4 or let's say -4 if it was shifted down 4. So we don't have that here. So that means our bottom line is this y equals 0 line. This x value here, we call it an asymptote. It's your bottom line. It's never going to touch that. So I'm going to get so close when I go ahead and graph this. I'm going to make my tail go out like this. So close to that bottom line without touching. On IXL, I was noticing that they do touch that bottom line, but that's just a technicality. What you need to realize for your domain and your range is it does not touch that bottom line. Okay? So my domain for this one, how far left to how far right, I have an arrow left, which means I'm going to negative infinity. I have an arrow to the right, which means I'm going to positive infinity. So domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. Positive infinity. Or you can say all reals. That's going to be something you're going to see in IXL a lot. All reals for these guys, okay? Your range. Oopsies. So this is where this whole bottom line comes into play. How low does this function go? Well, it never crosses the y equals 0. It never goes into negatives for y. So that means it starts at 0 and it goes all the way up to, this is an arrow, so it's going all the way up to infinity. And since it never touches 0, we use a parenthesis, not a bracket, like we did up here. That touched 0, so we used a bracket. This one, parenthesis, okay? And then always a parenthesis around infinity. This is how you're going to see it in IXL. You're going to see it written as an inequality, okay? So it's going to be y, your range is always y's, domain is always x's, remember? Y is greater than, not equal to, because it doesn't touch, and it's not a bracket. Y is greater than 0, and you might even see that line going on like this, right? Don't even worry about all that. That's just some fancy lingo. You need to worry about this. Y is greater than 0, okay? All right, so that was your lesson for today. 3 graphs: square root, cube root, exponential. These ones did not have transformations. These ones did. Or the exponential did. I'm gonna give you on the back of this 3 questions. I want you to do the exact same thing. Okay. So this is your task for today. Question 1: I want you to graph y equals the square root of x plus 1. This one is being shifted. Make sure when you put in your calculator you have y equals x plus 1. So square root of, did I even say square root? Sorry. Y equals the square root of x plus 1. Keep it underneath the radical, okay? It's underneath the radical, so keep it underneath. And when you go into your table, you graph that first point after error. It's going to be different than the one on the front, just because it moved left 1. Left 1, okay? So you're going to graph that. Skip halfway down. I want to see your XY tables, okay, and your nice, beautiful graph. For 2, I want you to graph a cube root, so y is equal to the cubed root, 3, of x, and now I'm going to shift it up or down. So I'm going to shift it down 2, okay? Y is equal to the cube root of x minus 2. So careful with this one. I'm going to show you how to do this. Math, cube root of x, you have to tab out and then do minus 2. If you don't tab out, you're going to be moving it right 2, okay? So this one shifted down 2, so that means your 3 points that you're graphing are going to shift down 2 as well. So just graph, use that strategy of finding the 3 middle and then one that's more negative, one that's more positive, okay? Your x and your y. Since this shifted to the right 2, you're just going to have to, everything's going to shift right, so your points are going to go a little bit further this way. It's going to look something like this. I wish I had a pencil so I could erase it, but it's going to look something like this, okay? Because it shifted to the right 2. And then question number 3 is your exponential. You're going to graph y equals, I'll keep 2 as my base here. I'll go x, and then we'll go, what did I do there? +1. I'll do -3. So that's going right 3, okay? So again, it's gonna look like this, but it's gonna move right 3, so it's gonna look like a little bit over like that, okay? All right, I wanna see your table, and I wanna see your XY here. I want you guys taking pictures of both the notes, so I know you took the notes, as well as your work on the back, okay? That's what I want to see from you guys, and upload that into Google Classroom when the Dropbox goes live. It might not be live today, but all right, Wits mail us with any questions. I hope you guys have a great Monday, and I hope to see you all soon.